Always good to talk some hoops. Michael Lee, he's a very good follow on Twitter, by the way, at Mr. Michael Lee, NBA senior writer for Yahoo Sports, kind enough to join me on a Friday on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. What's going on, Michael?
Hey, not much. Just enjoying, I guess, a few days between games.
Yeah, I have a question. I saw your Kevin Durant tweet where he made James Harden do the first step of the cha-cha. Are we going with the one where now everyone clap? Are we going with that one? Kind of the updated one, correct?
No, that's where it goes slide to the left.
Yeah. So clap your hands, right? Dun, 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 dun. All right, I was just making sure. I had to confirm.
I don't know if you know the cha-cha slide. Maybe go ahead and do the iTunes and
yeah, I know that. The Casper slide. Yeah, the Casper slide, right?
To the right.
Yeah, I got you.
No, I'm talking the cha-cha slide.
Oh, yeah, no, I know that one.
I'll text it to you.
Yeah, please do, because you know what? I'm a music guy, and I'm thinking to myself, maybe I gotta take the mute off to see if I listen to some of the music. But nonetheless, listen, I'll tell you, you actually bring up a really good point. With one of your tweets, they stay true to themselves, all jokes aside, the Houston Rockets. And for now, we have a series, right? We have a series that's even up at 1 apiece. I thought they just kind of played Rockets basketball in Game 2. But I'll tell you something. What would alarm me if I'm a Golden State fan is how they're going after Steph Curry and how Steph Curry is struggling mightily. So talk a little bit about the adjustments the Rockets made from Game 1 to 2, and then what's Golden State? How do they get Curry out of this funk?
I think the Rockets, more than anything, is that they just got P.J. Tucker and Trevor Ariza better looks, and they hit those shots. When those guys are 15 for 18 from the floor, you really can't do anything about it. It's like they're red hot and they're in a good groove, and they really needed to be that hot, considering that James Harden and Chris Paul didn't have the best shooting performances. But I think the main thing was just getting good looks for guys, and also using Eric Gordon a little bit more. I mean, he's one of the candidates for Sixth Man of the Year, and when he gets rolling, they're a much better team. I mean, he was one of the top guys in plus minus all season. So when he's on the floor, good things generally happen. So they just got their other guys, their non-superstar guys, to step up and have great performances. And for the Warriors, they didn't have anybody step up outside of Kevin Durant, and that's a problem, because he's obviously the difference maker. There's nobody on the floor that can guard him, and I think the Rockets are content with just letting him get his and focusing on everybody else and making it hard for everyone else. They ran Klay Thompson off the line. Draymond Green has not scored 10 points in either of the games yet. So I think that as long as the other guys don't do anything, then they're fine with letting Durant get 40 or 38 or whatever he's going to wind up getting. As for Steph Curry, the one thing they're going to have to do is try to find a way to get him in action, try to get him moving. I think a lot of times he's very efficient when he's coming off screens, and when he's, the way that they're attacking him, they need to make sure that the guy that's defending him takes a couple hits every now and then,
right.
Coming around screens and killing it, because that's how you pay him back. And then you get Steph some good looks that way. I think they had the ball in his hands probably a little too much. And when he gives it up, he generally gives it up to Kevin, and then he goes to work. I think what they have to do is probably have Draymond serve more as a facilitator, or even Andre Iguodala. Having those guys having the ball in their hands a little bit more, getting Steph on the run. I know it's tough considering what he has to do on the defensive end, but he's a tough guy, and I think that if he gets in a good groove and he starts hitting those threes, those are the shots that wind up crushing the opponent.
Yes.
When he's driving and making layups, they're okay with that. They're
right.
fine. We'd rather get a Steph Curry layup than a Steph Curry three. But I just think the main thing is they got to get the ball out of his hands a little bit more, play a little bit with him, running around screens, so that they can make the Rockets work a little bit on the defensive end.
No doubt. More spacing on the floor. And you're right, you live with KD averaging 35, but it's the other guys. It's Curry, it's Thompson, and to a lesser extent, it's Iguodala as well, who can facilitate and at least a dribble drive and kick out here and there. But I agree. Curry, once he starts going off, and what happens is when he starts to force the issue and really press a little bit, and he's driving, he's a little unorthodox, he's out of control, that's when he's turning the ball over. That's when he's not getting back on defense. And you just can't have it. And the one thing about the Rockets that amazed me is everyone was talking about Gordon and Paul and then James Harden. When you go and you watch Game 1, oh my goodness, it looked like you were playing street ball back in the day where it's like isolation 101, and they were waiting for the shot clock to just go down to 3, 2, 1. Okay, let James step back and fling it and see if it goes in. They really didn't do that as much on Tuesday. They actually got other players involved in the offense.
Well, they actually ran more ISO plays in Game 2 than they did in Game 1.
Really?
They did, yeah.
You wouldn't have think that maybe because they were knocking down their shots finally, and then Tucker had the big game as well.
Well, I think what happened is they did it quicker. They got into the action a lot faster. Harden was just dribbling and probing a lot in Game 1, but once he attacks the minute they get the ball, that makes it hard on the defense if he's a little more decisive. If he's out there if guys are standing on a possession for 15 seconds, that's fine. The defense will take that all day. But if he's in an isolated situation and he's attacking, the defense has to react to him a lot quicker, and then all of a sudden guys get open looks. But if they know that if a guy's just standing there in the corner, they don't have to really worry about anything. If James or Chris is just out there, yo-yoing the ball and trying to, get a and one mixtape thing going, that's fine. That's what they want. But I think, as long as they're decisive, they're quicker with it. That's when ISO ball. They've been playing ISO ball all season. That's what they've been saying. We don't have to change up anything. They have to be better, and that requires being a little bit faster. That requires being a little more decisive, knowing where you want to go beforehand, and not just sitting there and just letting the clock melt before you wind up in panic mode.
Is LeBron almost resigned to the fact that, all right, you know what, Boston, just put me out of my misery here. I can only. I'm being serious. I don't think. Listen, listen. I say it in tongue in cheek. I told my producer Josh before you came on. I said he's going to will them to at least win one game, and if you can get two, you make it a series. But it's tough to watch. They were so good against Toronto. Maybe that's more of an indictment on Toronto. And now none of these role players are stepping up.
This series is clearly an indictment on the Toronto Raptors. It definitely is. They show no guts, and they show way too much deference to a team, not a player, but to a team that really is not that good. I think we all respect and that LeBron is the best player of this generation, and you give him his respect, but the rest of the team is not very good, and they haven't been good all year. So it's not like they all of a sudden were a bad defensive team once they got to the playoffs. They've been a bad defensive team all year, and Boston is really exploiting that. And I think the one interesting thing that I heard from LeBron this series is that, when they were down 0-1, they asked him, can you lean back on his pass, being down? And he sort of, like you said, he sort of sounded resigned to the fact that this is a different team. One, the Celtics are different, and this team he's playing with right now is different. I just feel like, 4 years trying to make it to the finals, that really wears on the team. And the fact that you don't have a Kyrie Irving there to relieve him of the offensive burden. You saw in Game 1, or Game 2, he had 21 in the first quarter, and that's usually enough to knock a team out.
Yes.
But Boston was like, okay, that's all you got? Cool. All right, well, we got more for you.
Right, exactly.
But when he got to the third and the fourth quarter, when he started to get a little tired and he wasn't really trying to conserve his energy, that's usually the time that Kyrie Irving takes over and goes to town. He doesn't have a Kyrie Irving to go to town if he's not rolling. And as good as Kevin Love is, he's not a guy that's going to be able to put the ball on the floor and just say, let me just go to work all day, because he's not that kind of player. He is a great player, but he's just not a Kyrie Irving. And I think that's the difference in this series, and that's why the athleticism, the quickness, all that enthusiasm that the Celtics bring, that's what makes this a really tough series, tough matchup for the Cavaliers. I think LeBron has too much pride to get swept, but I don't know. It's going to be tough for them to win 4 games just because I don't see that spirit from those other guys. I don't know if it's ever going to come back.
And listen, you can't teach heart. I mean, either you have it or you don't. You can't stick the will in other players' body. And you brought up an excellent point. And I think when LeBron got his bell rung a little bit, I don't know if he was reluctant, but I think he's gassing a little bit. I disagree with what they were saying during the broadcast, where if you want to have that, that Jordan or Kobe in you. Listen, LeBron's never going to forget about the comparisons or the killer instincts. What he did against Toronto showed that he's clutch. I just think he's tired because everything is basically that offense. He's got to be the primary ball handler. He's got to touch the ball the most on the floor. And after a while, you can't just defer to your teammates, especially if they're not knocking down shots. I wouldn't have trust in you. Korver gets paid to knock down the shots. Love, he's an enigma. J.R. Smith has been a dog. I mean, he's been a flat-out dog. He really has. And you also brought up a really interesting point before, too, with you're trying to get to the finals year in and year out. And I brought up the old 30 for 30 with the Detroit Pistons, where they grinded for so many years, got there, and it's very hard to maintain. And sometimes you're gassed and you're tired. Now, you're talking about 5 guys that always played with heart compared to just one player on the floor right now with Cleveland, and that's LeBron. And I think there's something to be said about that. With all that being said, though, if I'm curious, Michael, if they lose in 5 or say 6, does it make it that the decision that much more clear and easier for LeBron to say, I just can't do it here anymore?
Well, I think that also in combination with what happened with the lottery, the fact that the Brooklyn pick was not what they thought it would be. It's not going to be that building block piece that's going to set the franchise, towards a different path. I think it's more likely that he will leave, and it will be a tough rebuild for them. And I think if that's the case, then you just kind of have a fire sale. You kind of see what you can get for Love. You see what you can get for whatever else you have on your roster, and try to move forward. I think that it would be a good time for the Cavaliers to start over if LeBron is to leave. But I don't know where he goes. It's one thing to say, yeah, he's got to go, but what's the best place for him?
The fit, yeah.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think it's the Lakers. Philadelphia doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Houston.
Try. By the way, Michael, try telling that to our listening audience.
Yeah, well, I do. I'll tell you, it doesn't make a lot of sense because unless LeBron is going to play off the ball, which
exactly.
I doubt. I don't know what I don't know why you would add him unless you're basically telling I don't want to have Ben Simmons anymore. And that's a pretty dangerous game because if you look at what it takes if you have LeBron come to your franchise, that means that you are ready to win right now, and that means that there's no room for anybody to grow. Because the minute he got there, they traded Andrew Wiggins off. They traded off Dion Waiters. They traded off all the young guys that they had. They had a very young foundation going forward. I think it's one of the things that Kyrie Irving saw. It's like, man, we traded away our entire future for 4 years of this guy. Now Kyrie's gone too. So you think about it. They traded 3 top 4 picks and 2 number 1s in that. Bennett is a scrub, so that doesn't matter. But they basically traded 4 top 4 picks for 4 years of LeBron, and now all they have is the Brooklyn pick. So you're committing to whatever short term commitment LeBron is giving you, and you're basically saying no future for us.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Philadelphia is in a situation where it's so desperate that they have to win now that they have to forfeit their future for a couple years of LeBron. I just don't think they should do that.
Great points as always. Hey, listen, I always appreciate your time. I know I'm hitting the 1 o'clock break. You're going to have to tweet the video to me. I know what song you're talking about, but I'm just drawing a blank on a Friday. But, hey, I always appreciate the insight, pal.
Okay, cool.
We'll talk during the finals. Take care. Michael Lee,
Definitely,
NBA
sure.
senior writer for Yahoo Sports. Great job with him.